يا راغبا في كل علم نافع.
ينمو العلم ويتقدم بتقنياته ومجالاته، ومعه نطور أدواتنا في تقديم العلم الشرعي. أكاديمية
زاد أكاديمية ينبوعها صاف ليروي غلة الظمآن، ومكارم الأخلاق ندرسها معا، أدب وتربية على الإحسان. بشرى لنا زاد أكاديمية للعلم كالأزهار في البستان.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Continuing with Islamic education level 4 and the diseases done by the heart, and the subject of al-ishq, or the sinful passion that a person would have towards someone that is not permissible to have between men and women or so, in which falsely they would call it love when it's not. It's supposed to be only between the husband and the wife. So what are some of the reasons for the sinful attitude that a person would have? It's very clear and obvious that turning away from the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and usually when the heart is empty from the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what happened to such a love and or such a heart. And as the ulama, they mentioned it, and a person might be even married and he would fall into these sinful acts as a result of that. And therefore the heart, if it has the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, truly it would never have this sinful love entering it. So that's why this is a disease in the heart as a result of the heart was empty. So when it was empty, it finds its place there. So to fill the hearts with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the things that it's actually the emptiness, or this, it becomes an industry in the time that we live in. You know, where they would make the life of those who are youth empty. They have nothing important in their life. So you would find them walking in the malls, in the streets, wasting their life and thinking that this is what youth is supposed to be upon. This is the years where they're supposed to do the best of their actions. And compare that to the life of the companions radiallahu anhum. Usama ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu, he was 16 years old when he was the leader of an army, having in it Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhum. The matter is a serious one, and that's we have to blame ourselves and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. One of these means that cause the person to fall to this is not guarding one's body, one's senses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to guard. Not lowering the gaze, not controlling the way that or the things that we hear, that allows the heart to be corrupted with these things that gets into it from one's eyesight, from one's hearing. And as the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the authentic hadith, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ عَلَى ابْنِ آدَمَ حَظَّهُ مِنَ الزِّنَا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained upon or recorded for the son of Adam his share of zina or fornication. أَدْرَكَ ذَلِكَ لَا مَحَالَ, they would attain this no matter what. فَزِنَا الْعَيْنِ النَّظَرِ, the zina, the fornication of the eyes, is looking. وَزِنَا اللِّسَانِ الْمَنْطِقِ, and the fornication of the tongue is to speak, is to say something explicit, something haram. وَالنَّفْسُ تَتَمَنَّى وَتَشْتَهِي, and one's self hopes and desires. وَالْفَرْجُ يُصَدِّقُ ذَلِكَ كُلَّهُ أَوْ يُكَذِّبُ, and the private part would either make this truthful or to deny. That means it's one step after the other. So when a person doesn't guard one's physical body, then this can lead the person to the corruption of the heart by this type of sinful act. Listening to music and songs that has all kinds of these wordings that haram, and it's almost call people to these types of things. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade music, and this is something that is agreed upon and it's well known. And the same thing when it comes to music and songs that has words to it, that has lyrics to it, that they use these words and they choose it very carefully to make people addicted to it and divert the hearts from the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to follow these sinful acts. And of course movies and these romantic stories and novels and fiction that has all kinds of haram things that makes the person fall into this false life. It's something that is not the real life that a person lives in, and people would see things that is not really the reality of things. And this is something that is very serious, even for people that are married, as we said. When they see, for example, in a movie or a soap opera, that people are not the same ones that they would interact with. That's not as the same husband, it's not the same wife. The beauty and the adornment of things and how they interact, and that's not the reality of things. So all of these things are means of Iblis and Shaitan to take people away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade them. And in general, the weakness of a person, when a person has a weak personality, that he would allow his emotions to control him and to take control over him, then a person can be easily fall into these traps of these evil desires and these evil passion that a person would have in his heart. That's why the way to cure and to protect ourselves from this is to turn away and to run away from the means that would lead to this. Because all of the human beings, they have the same ability or the same desire in their hearts. But someone is determined, he would take himself away from it, versus someone that is lazy and he would allow himself to fall into the haram. The love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the heart is full of that, and to be taking the means of that by being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reading the Quran and understanding the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lowering the gaze, something that is easier because it's an early stage before the heart becomes fully turned away with this. And that's why to cure the heart from such a disease, as ulama, they say, it depends on what level that a person degraded himself to. If it's something that is from the very beginning, it's easier. And the more the disease becomes, encompassing the hearts, then it's more effort. And everything is feasible by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but a person has to prepare himself that he would have to put more effort into the matter. If a person fall into a hole, if it's just his foot, it's easy to get himself up. But if he allows himself to get deeper and deeper, that means the effort that he would take to get himself out is more and more than someone of a different level. So one of the ways to seek the means of cure is to remind oneself by the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the attributes of Allah, inna Allah yaghar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ghayra, meaning the ghayra for the human beings is the jealousy. That means the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is upon those who would transgress the limits. And someone that has proper nature, if a man, for example, he has his wife, he become extremely angry when someone sees or looks at his wife in a sinful way. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade this. So a person has to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is severe in punishment. To make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always going to be the cure for all of the diseases of the heart. To make dua to Allah, to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely and never to give up. And if a person finds himself, he makes the dua, he takes the means and he keeps on slipping away, never to give up on the dua and taking the means and working on the matter, of course, to fix it, but never to stop the repentance, never to stop the dua, never, under any condition. And to run away from what the heart is attached to. Even if a person has to move from the town that he's living in, if he has the means to do so, to run away from such attachment of the heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in such a way that we will forget, we will overlook things. Things doesn't have to be controlling oneself for the rest of his life. And to reflect, as the ulama, they say, of the bad effects or the bad characteristics of the one that his heart is attached to. A person is attached his heart to someone, a woman, for example. Remember, when she goes to the bathroom, for example, it's not going to be pleasant. So meaning, it's a way to train one's thinking that not what you think that human being is all that. Human beings are human beings. And to look at the outcome of things, the end of things, that would make the person miserable, lose this life and in the hereafter, waste his life, especially the best days of his life. Instead of being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he become indulged into these evil actions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. And of course, if a person is able to get married, then he get married. So all of these things are means and means of cure, that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
يا راغبا في كل علم نافع
ينمو العلم ويتقدم بتقنياته ومجالاته، ومعه نطور أدواتنا في تقديم العلم الشرعي. أكاديمية
زاد أكاديمية ينبوعها صاف ليروي غلة الظمآن، ومكارم الأخلاق ندرسها معا، أدب وتربية على الإحسان. بشرى لنا زاد أكاديمية للعلم كالأزهار في البستان.